Well, what is happening in the world? If you find yourself struggling to answer that very question, I don't blame you. You see, America is asleep at the wheel of global leadership, and the media is too busy shielding the Biden administration from any and all scrutiny to shine a light at the looming threats on the world's horizon. While we dwell on domestic political silliness here at home, the cries of an impatient world grow louder, and our enemies are hard at work consolidating power to ensure that the 21st century is not defined by American exceptionalism. In the last month alone, we have witnessed a slew of aggressions and developments that threaten stability around the globe and the reliable world order we take for granted. China and Iran just cemented a 25-year, $400 billion strategic alliance, severely compromising our ability to keep Iran and its nuclear ambitions at bay, while simultaneously undermining our efforts for peace in the Middle East. Meanwhile, on the global economic front, China just became the only major economy in the world to issue a digital version of its currency, the yuan. It is the move that puts them well ahead of the U.S. in the race for crypto dominance and potentially has long-term implications for America's dominance as reserve currency for the world. And while China and Russia have always had a challenging relationship, their renewed public alignment on all things cyber and foreign policy is an undeniable threat to our very way of life. Now, around the globe, America's friends and allies, they've taken notice. UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson just declared Russia his nation's top security challenge. To meet this threat, he has proposed building additional nuclear weapons and increasing military spending by nearly 50%. Other countries are also working to counteract China's 100-year plan for global dominance, including their ongoing effort to monopolize rare earth minerals. Those are the essential materials used in smartphones, computers, and practically every technological device we need in our digitally obsessed world. Specifically, the people of Greenland, of all places, just elected a new coalition government committed to preventing China from exploiting their natural resources the way they have done to nations all across the continent of Africa. In fact, perhaps the only nation unwilling to address this brewing axis of evil with the fierce urgency it deserves has been the previously undisputed leader of the free world, the United States of America. Now, all of this can be difficult to absorb, but the implications are quite clear. The fight for the future of global leadership and economic dominance is well underway. And if the Biden administration believes that not being Trump is enough to secure the next century of America's dominance around the world, then it is clear their concept of American leadership is as antiquated as our 78-year-old commander-in-chief. Now, to be clear, we have serious, urgent problems in desperate need of redress here at home. The massive overreach of big tech, the constant attack on our First Amendment rights, the subversive actions to erode our Second Amendment rights, and a movement afoot to remake America in the mold of socialist ideals that have never worked in the history of the world. And if that doesn't make matters bad enough, there's the potential demise of liberty and personal freedom in the name of renewed security, with far-reaching proposals like universal vaccine passports. Our ability to successfully tackle these critical challenges will determine whether or not America remains capable of delivering on our nation's founding promise for all Americans. But if we remain so obsessed with the ideological war at home that we lose sight of the geopolitical threats advancing to our front door, we could find ourselves living in a first-class nation that has been relegated to second-tier status on the world stage. Ironically, President Biden knows all of this far too well. In an unintended moment of transparency, he said out of his own mouth, global leadership is up for grabs. But if we continue to act as if winning the presidency was the only requirement for this president, if we ignore the reality that his bold ideas for tomorrow ask us to go back to the future and retrofit 20th century solutions to compete in a 21st century world, America will find itself out of time, out of favor, and incapable of controlling her own destiny.